Hi guys! Welcome back to my channel. Today I thought it'd be fun to do kind of like a monthly roundup. I have notes. Ooh, okay. It's the end of September and I read 7 books in total. I'm so excited to tell you guys about them. I'm going to do my best to make this spoiler free but still giving some information. I started off the month with reading The Lost Daughter by Elena Ferrante. This is about a English professor who takes a vacation at the beach and the relationships that she creates while she's at the beach. And she kind of gets a little obsessed with this family that's at the beach with her. Like, these families stay by the beach and then come to the beach every day and they put their umbrellas in the same spot and it's like they spend the whole day. She becomes a little bit obsessive with this family, and there's a mom and her little girl and the dynamics between that, and it's a story and it kind of makes you a little uncomfortable, but the writing's really good. I ended up giving that 3.75 stars. If you like Elena Ferrante's writing, if you are a fan of literary fiction, I would say that this is a good book. The second book that I read this month was Pictures of You. This one was super easy. It was super easy to read and it was really unique because the tag on Fable for it said that it was a romance, and I didn't feel like it was a romance. This woman wakes up in the hospital. She's just been in this massive car accident and she has no memory whatsoever. Okay. I shouldn't say of like the accident. And it turns out she thinks that she's 16. Like, she's lost 15 years of memory. And her husband was in the car with her. Her husband passed away. And this team of doctors is like, what do you remember? And she's like, so she's coming to, like, she's struggling with the fact that she has no memory. She thinks that she's like in high school and she's like, oh my God, my mom's gonna kill me. That type of like, oh my God, I got into an accident. The whole book is her finding out who her husband was, because interestingly enough, where her memory stops is when she meets her husband. So she met him in high school. And so she's relearning who she is and who her husband was, and gaining all of her memory, or striving to gain her memories back, and trying to figure out why there's no contact information on her parents and her best friend. And like, okay, I get that 15 years have happened, but why can't I just pick up the phone and call my mom and dad? Like, this doesn't make sense. And you go on a whole trip with her as she's finding out what has happened in the past 15 years. I thought it was easy and interesting. This was definitely something that I was like, I'm gonna sit down and read, and I didn't want to like put it down. I thought it was really, really good. I gave it 4 stars, so it was good. It was a good read. Ooh, one of my favorites this month. Okay. The third book I read was Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Another literary fiction. Sally Rooney's writing is peculiar. She doesn't use quotation marks. So if you're like, if that is something that's just not your vibe, like if that's gonna drive you crazy, don't even bother, because every single book that she has written, no quotation marks. So that's a little bit of like it always takes me a second to get into. Also, this writing style was really, really weird. You're following 2 brothers, Ivan and Peter. And when you're in Peter's mind in his chapters, it's kind of written almost like a stream of consciousness, and then there's like conversations splattered in, and then stream of consciousness. And Peter is very dark. He's in his mid-30s, he's a lawyer, but his are really, really hard to read. And then you go into Ivan, and Ivan is the younger brother. He's like in his early 20s, and he's really, really smart. He has like a physics degree, and he plays chess at a competitive level. And his chapters were my favorite to read until I got like in the swing of it. Both these brothers, Ivan and Peter, are struggling with the the passing of their father. They have a strained relationship with their mother, who has been separated from their father for ages. Ivan meets an older woman while he's at a chess tournament, and they do their own thing, and Peter has been struggling mentally with the breakup he's had with his serious ex-girlfriend, and you're following these two boys' relationships, but also the relationship together. And it's not a long book, but it feels long. It's dense, and it's got a lot of emotion in it, and it was so good. But you have to already like Sally Rooney's writing to like this one. I give it 4.5 stars. And honestly, it would have been a 5-star read for me if it wasn't for the fact that I'm not a fan of reading stream of consciousness. This one I'm embarrassed about. Meet Me at the Lake. Why I'm embarrassed is I gave it 4 stars. I couldn't tell you anything about it. But I've been reading this author's books intermittently through some of the like heavier books, and they're just love stories. Why is Allie's love rating so high? Or romance rating so high? It was cute. It's a couple. They meet one day and they promise to meet up again that same day a year later, and life happens and they grow up, and it's 10 years later. And where have you been? Where have you been, Loca? Oh my god. I gave it 4 stars. If you like romance, throw it on your library holds. The next book that I read this month was called The Compound. This was wild. So funky, because when I got into it, everything was like, oh, it's about, if you like reality TV dating shows, this is about that. Yes, it is. However, you're following a character or a contestant that's in this dating show, and it's not lovey-dovey like romance at all. Almost kind of has like a creepy vibe to it, and I had this like constant ick, but I loved it. But I had like this constant ick when I was reading it. You come in, there's a group of strangers, this boy, girl, and you want to make it until the end. That's basically, it's a contest, and there's half boys, half girls, and the way to make it through the whole show is every night there needs to be a boy and a girl in a bed, and by sunrise they need to be like in the bed together. There's no saying that they have to be doing anything, but they need to be in the bed together, and then they make it to the next day. So if anybody's alone in a bed, they get Survivor styled. I forget what it's called, but they're like shooed away, banished from the house. It's a compound in the middle of the desert, and I think it's slightly dystopian because there's hints of like the outside world not being good, and wars and constant burning fires in the desert. So it's got like undertones, but it's not that heavy. It's almost just like, I don't know, it's funky. The really unique, cool, kind of awesome thing about this is that it kind of makes you think, like the main character that we're hanging out with during this whole thing, she's on there because she has a lot of wants, and you can have anything you want if you vocalize that you want it, and the house will give you like tasks to complete, and if you complete those tasks, bam, you'll get those cashmere slippers. Is that a thing? Cashmere slippers? You'll get those slippers, you'll get that sweater, you'll get that lipstick, you'll get that comb that you want. And it's very much like you can get all of these materialistic things that you want if you vocalize it, and if you're willing to do stuff for it. And some of it's a little jacked up that you have to do, and some of it's just whatever. But it's kind of like, it does give you the ick about materialistic things. I gave The Compound 4.75 stars. I honest to God don't know why I didn't give it 5. Ooh, this is my lowest rated book. And honestly, I almost didn't finish it. Like, I really sat there and was like, I'm not going to finish this. And that is Me Talk Pretty One Day by David Sedaris. know nothing about, well, I know a little bit now because I read this. Listened. Actually, that is a big, I listened to this, and it was read by David Sedaris. First negative, I listened. I shouldn't have listened. I struggle with audiobooks. I want to be that girl, but I don't know why I'm struggling with audiobooks. I tend to always rate them lower than like eyes to page reading. I think it's something about my brain. I recognize the name David Sedaris. I had not heard any of his comedy, read anything by him. I didn't find a lot of the stuff that he said funny. And it kind of felt very mean-hearted, and it felt like he was making fun of people, especially his parents, and I did not like that. It just wasn't my cup of tea. I read it because it was suggested to me, and I read it because it was also on the Rory Gilmore Reading Challenge, and I'm trying to knock those out. I don't suggest. I give it 1 star because I finished it, and I felt like I had to rate it. The last book I want to talk about is The Hours by Michael Cunningham. This is another short book. I think it was like 230 pages. However, it took me like a full week to read this. This was hard to read. This, like, massive mental health struggles. Like, that is just like glaring, hey, mental health. You're following 3 women. You're following Virginia Woolf. You're following Clarissa Dalloway. And you're following Ms. Brown. And in the prologue, like the first chapter, you're put in Virginia Woolf's head as she walks into a river with rocks in her pockets. That's like the prologue. So that's kind of what I mean on like, this is really hard to read. This is very heavy in the mental health situation. And then you go to Clarissa Dalloway, and she's in New York, and her she's buying flowers for a friend of hers, Richard's party. He won a literary award. Richard has a terminal disease, and he's very, very sick, and he's struggling mentally and physically, and that's her day as she's buying flowers and prepping and running into people on the street and inviting them to celebrate Richard and his award. And then you have Ms. Brown, who is a young mother who is struggling with her thoughts, and she's currently pregnant with another baby. The whole day that you're following her with is her husband's birthday, and she's baking him a cake, and she really wants to read this book. She's reading Mrs. Dalloway. So that's like the combination. This book was really, really good, but this book made me cry. I gave it 4 stars. That was my monthly wrap up. I'm obviously reading something. I'm reading a little romance right now because I need to cleanse the palette, if you will, and it came up in my library holds. So I guess it is time to say farewell. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!